It's about carrying forth a message that says, as a leader, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to take your advice. Because I can't do it all myself. I mean, that's just arrogance. I can't do it all myself. I need people to tell me. And
welcome to the Founder's Journey podcast. Inspiration, education for founders by founders. Welcome back to the Founder's Journey podcast. This is every once in a while we start one of these things and we hit the record button too late and we're like halfway through something ridiculous going on, and that's where we are. We're already talking about unspeakable things already. I'm sure we'll get into more, but our guest today is a guy, I don't even know how long, William, we've known each other. It's probably 20 years now, coming up on somewhere along that line.
At a certain point, you stop using years. You
That's
just
right.
say,
that's right. Couple of decades.
Not sure who was the bad influence, but anyhow, we're here now.
So, one of the funniest guys and certainly most interesting guys you'll ever meet, William Tincup, is our guest today. William and I, like I said, we've known each other for a long time. We both come out of the kind of broadly HR technology space and got to know each other through that. William's been an advisor or a mentor or a board member in various companies that I've had. And for so many, for many, many, many others, has had a wealth of experience in his own founder's journey, has helped other founders. There's just so much to talk about here. So William, welcome to the podcast.
I've been looking forward to this all week, guys. This is going to be fun.
All right.
That's awesome.
And it's Thursday too, I think, right? Is it? No, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Normally when people say they've been looking forward to it all week, it's like Monday at 10 a.m. So
I've been looking forward to this all week. The last 2 hours.
That's right. We're going to talk about his entrepreneurial experience, but today really focus on actually building out his own podcast network, which is kind of an interesting thing, right? Called Work Defined, and we'll talk about that a little bit and get into what William's working on today. So let's sort of start at the really top. William, just give us the 2-minute version of a multi-decade career here as a founder, and tell us about your own founder's journey.
What was that Steve Martin bit in one of his movies? I was born a poor black child.
Yeah. That was from The Jerk.
That was from The Jerk, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with that. I was born a poor black child. Anyhow, I think, I learned outside of college, and even before, I learned the industry of retail, so retail industry. Then I learned what is basically Native American studies, so, the Native American kind of industry, if you will, culturally at least. And then I learned the museum industry, because I thought I wanted to be a curator of the Indian Museum. I found out that there's no money in that, and so I decided to pivot. And then I went to business school, got out of business school. And then I learned the kind of the integrated marketing, advertising, PR industry, if you will. And then once I landed, at the time I owned an ad agency, once I landed on HR tech, because all of our clients, so the funny thing to do, if you're ever trying to figure out like if you should focus on an industry as a software company, you're saying like, okay, well, we got healthcare clients, we got retail clients, we got some clients over here in government, whatever. You're trying to figure that out. Okay, so here's a suggestion. Go to a state park with about a pound of weed for a week.
Story. I had no idea where the story was going to go, but you got me at the top.
Smoke yourself sober, and then use a lot of Post-it notes to then decide, okay, where are we making money? Check.
Did they go on trees? You put the Post-it notes on trees?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. We don't got a cabin that you can be in need for. It doesn't, go where you need to go.
You're focusing on the wrong part of the story here.
Okay, sorry.
You start to segment the business by saying, where are we making most money? Where are people the happiest?
Yeah.
Where are the clients the happiest?
Mm-hmm.
And you start narrowing in on the place that after you have 50, maybe 100 clients or so, you start to figure out, you know what, we're really good with restaurants. We're really good with whatever the industry. It doesn't matter. Don't force it. Just let it come to you. That's the pound of weed. So once it comes to you, and when we did this, it was HR tech. HR tech was a growing industry. We had 15, 20 clients already, and our own team was happiest because they were great people to deal with. So we just said, okay, what we're going to do is we'll take all comers. Like if someone calls us and say, hey, can you? Yeah, we'll say yes to that. However, we're going to focus on that industry. So the website and everything will be about that industry. And that's how I got into work tech, HR tech, whatever you want to call it. And the reason for that, pound of weed, the reason for that is I didn't want to learn a new industry. After we figured out like this is the good for the business, I decided I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to stay here. So even after I exited that business in a really good way, really good partnership in a really good way, I stayed in the industry. And it was cool. It was kosher with Brett and everything like that. So no problems. I just stayed in the industry and just kind of kept doing what I was doing. Not with an agency and not in the same shape or form. But I was like, to answer the question, Greg, I just didn't want to learn a new industry. I already learned 4 or 5 industries by that point in my life. I'm like, fuck that shit. Right. I'm not going to go spend 4 years of learning some new shit. Right. And to become known at the time when I left, I was already HR famous. So I didn't need to go and do that shit in the pharmaceutical industry. Like, okay, because it's going to take a while to build up that presence, the knowledge. What conferences what trade magazines, what blogs, what people to follow, who to fucking avoid, all that shit. It takes 3 to 4 years to learn that shit in any industry. There's no shortcuts. You can't chat GPT your way out of that shit. You just got to learn it.
Yep.
And to learn it is to go through a bunch of experiences. And that's about when we met, was 08-ish. And we started... we started just talking. I mean, I remember just having calls with you. And then once I went out on my own, I think I was a consulting client.
Yeah.
Y'all were a consulting client. Because Peter, I think that's when we met.
Yeah.
In Saratoga.
Yeah.
By the way, if you could ever go to Saratoga in the summer, do so. And we had a writer's room. I don't know if y'all remember this bit.
Yep.
But this was like,
awesome.
We were trying to figure out, okay, like what thematically, what are some of the things that we should push for the next 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever. And there was just this, this room of people, all bright, but also trying to figure out, like, okay, where is this thing going? I'm like, all right, let's talk about like retarded people and referrals. And you could just feel
crazy.
You could just feel the air going, oh my God, where's he going? I'm like, yeah, that's a bad idea, but let's write it up on the wall. All right, let's go. So the idea was just if it's in your head, just get it out. And then we'll figure out the better ideas will come to the top. Cream rises. And that was a fun bit. I've done that thing probably 100 times since then. It's always the same. You start off with just really horrible
crazy
ideas.
And do you know, William, one of the things that was written on that board a couple years later was used for a piece of content, and it was called Hydrangeas, Duct Tape, and Intuitive Thinking. Literally, this could have come out of your head, knowing you, right? That piece of content, we then had this structure where we measured content by how much pipeline revenue it was influenced. It was a part of a deal, whatever. So no matter what, that was top 2 or top 3 for years.
Yeah.
Years. No one knows. We had a new CMO came in and he was like, what is this piece of shit? Piece of content? Like, what is this thing? I'm like, dude, let me show you data. For whatever reason, it's part of all of our revenue. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
He's like, have you ever read the thing you wrote here? And we're like, yeah, we've read it. He's like, it doesn't actually say anything. Like, it means nothing. We're like,
no one cares.
Yeah, no, it's a little embarrassing, but for some reason, people keep downloading it. We keep getting leads. So
I talked to a CMO yesterday, and they're like, okay, content strategy, this, that, the other. I said, no one knows who the fuck y'all are. Like, why are we talking about themes of content? No one knows. It's an ATS. It's called Discover. Great ATS, whatever.
Yeah.
But the entrepreneur is absolutely fantastic Like
Yeah.
this is a guy you'd follow, long beard, red hair, 6'5". Like this is a guy. He has thoughts. I've had him on a podcast. I've talked to him a couple times, and he has thoughts. Like those thoughts are good.
Right.
So the marketer is trying to push me into this place. Like, what should we be doing? I'm like, you should be building a cult of personality. That's what you should be doing. Put him front and center and have him on every show doing everything and just let him talk.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about what he talks about because people won't care either.
So
They're just going to like the guy.
the Founder's Journey podcast is sponsored by Render Tribe. Peter, what does Render Tribe do?
We help B2B companies hit their revenue goals through account-based marketing, RevOps support, and really supporting the full go-to-market motion. You can find us at rendertribe.com.
So I'm curious, William, like when you look at your career, right? So you had Start Tincup, you go off, you go off and become sort of a top analyst in the HR technology arena. What is it? Was it a passion for HR tech, or was it a passion for brand building and marketing that's kind of defined? So what's been that underlying thread, right? That's allowed you to continue to build.
I'll back up to HR. I'll back up to Start Tincup for a second. I started that actually with a different guy, Brian Burrows, and good guy, solid citizen. But he got his life got very complicated, and in the interim, we had brought Brett in. He was a fraternity brother of Brian's, and Brett and I were as polar opposite as you could be. If you ever take like some of the dumb personality tests like True Colors or some shit like that, like he was all empathy,
right?
All empathy. I have zero empathy. Like I don't even know how to spell the fucking word. Like I don't know what empathy is. If it fucking hit me over the head, I'd be like, I don't know what you are. So, but it worked because he handled shit with the business, but also with our employees that I couldn't. Like he could tell, like if an employee was struggling, he could tell and he could do stuff, and I couldn't. Whereas I could do some other things. So we had to, and this is for the audience, this is important. A business partnership is a marriage. I guess we're all heterosexual. Doesn't matter. Anyhow, so I've been married 30 years. Y'all have all been at some point married, whatever. Got it. It is a marriage. It's the same shit that makes your marriage work or not work. Communication and trust and respect and blah, blah, blah. It's all those core pillars. And when some of those disintegrate, you get into a separation, you get a divorce. We had to kick Brian out of the firm. So we had to have the hard conversation. I'm working at home. Brett's on like 3 Xanax. And he texts me. He's like, hey, Brian's in my office. He won't leave until you come in. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm confrontation oriented. So a personality character trait or personality fail for me is I actually enjoy conflict. So Brett, on the other end of that, with empathy, doesn't enjoy conflict. So we took Brian down to a restaurant, and I just looked across. I mean, it was literally like right out of Jerry Maguire. I'm like, I'm here today to fire you. And he's a business partner. He owns a third of the company.
Right.
I'm just like, yeah, here's the deal. You can stay, and we're going to take all the assets. So we'll take all the customers, and we'll take all the things that are worth it, and you can just keep the debt. Or you can leave, and we'll give you a payout.
Right.
But one of the two, when we leave this restaurant, one of the two is going to happen. And so having those very hard conversations with partners, I know we've all had to deal with, and every founder you've had on the show has had to deal with this. You're either not simpatico, or they're drifting in a different direction, or something's going on with their life. Yeah. You got to have these fucking conversations, and they're never easy. And I don't care what legal agreement you have or had or whatever. None of that shit matters. It comes down to you and another gal or guy. What are you going to do? And so that was in 2006. So we let him go. Well, I haven't talked to him since. So, it is what it is. But when Brett and I did our partnership, and when we did a buyout, I'll tell you about a fascinating trip. He was going to Mexico. No, he had just come back from Mexico. He had just come back to Mexico and he'd been visit a bunch of tequila rios, and so he was divinely inspired. So he's like, "Listen, the business is just you and I. Even though we have 50 employees or whatever it was, the business is just you and me. So like if you die, I'm screwed. Or if your wife dies, I'm screwed. If I die, okay, vice versa. All that stuff, true. And so we said we need to get keyman insurance. And what we'll do with keyman insurance is we'll pay if your wife dies, we'll pay you for 3 or 4 years, and you just go get your life together.
Right.
Go and do whatever you need. Go to Napa, drink a lot of wine, do whatever you got to go. So as we were doing that, we built the valuation of the business. So while we're doing this up on a wipe-off board, we're building the valuation of the business based on what we would pay the other person if they went through some type of tragedy. Mm-hmm. And because it was like the wives too. If Brett were to die, I'd pay Jennifer. The company would pay Jennifer for 4 years, whatever it was. So once we get done with that, and all the math's up on the wipe-off board, I looked at him. I said, I don't want to piss you off or anything, but I want to do that. Can I do that? He's like, what do you mean? Yeah, I'm like,
I want it now.
What? I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that bit. He's like, cool. Okay. Let's work it out. From that moment to 9 days later is all it took.
No,
my lawyer, his lawyer, the corporate lawyer, everything was agreed upon. It's done.
Why? So, all right. So that's
crap.
super fascinating, right? So, why was it that easy? Because you weren't actually having a conversation about your departure. You're just having a theoretical conversation about what if something happens. When suddenly, it like dawns on, but this had to be in the back of your mind, right? I mean, this had to be.
No, it wasn't. I swear to God, it wasn't.
What?
Why did you do it?
Like, do you know why you did it? Like, is there a reason now that you look back?
I know, and he knows. What I told him and what I believe to be true is when your clients' voices, just their sheer voices, send you into a fit of rage.
Yeah.
You should probably get out of the business. You're probably not good. You're toxic at that point, right?
Because they touch you off in a second.
Right. And I didn't even manage clients. So like I didn't even have I sold them, but I enjoyed that bit because Brett gave me the freedom to just like go sell whatever the fuck you want. I'll deal with it.
Right.
Okay, cool. So I'd sell stuff and then he'd put the people together and make it happen. And I remember a client who we rebranded, Brett and his team, they rebranded. This company had tried to change their name and rebrand for 4 years, some outrageous number. And Brett did it and launched them at a trade show in 5 months. And they're paying us, let's say, $25,000 a month. And the month after the trade show, the CEO called me and said, hey, you got a moment? I'm like, yeah, of course, man. What's going on? And he goes, okay, so I understood the retainer while we were going through the build. But I don't why would we be paying you $25,000 a month now? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Which is not an appropriate response from a services firm.
Yeah, I think it is.
But I said, are you fucking kidding me? Are you high? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he goes, well, I'm trying to figure out the justification. I'm like, the justification is you couldn't fucking do it on your own. Right. And we shut our firm down, literally shut our firm down to get you out of shit. And now you want to figure out a new way to work together?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like, give it a couple months, Holmes. Like, you don't have to do this right now. Like, that's fucked up.
Right.
It was at the show.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. And so that was definitely in my mind when Brett and I did the keyman insurance discussion is I'm not good for the business. Because that sort of stuff when you're an agency in a services business, when a customer asks for unreasonable shit, you should be adult enough and able enough to then say, okay, they're asking for some unreasonable stuff. Don't overreact. Just pause, breathe, meditate, smoke some weed, whatever, and then don't overreact. Okay. But I didn't, and I couldn't.
Right.
So I knew that about myself. But the keyman insurance conversation, that was just literally us without ego. And I think this is important for founders to understand. When you start talking valuation with your partners, a lot of ego is in that. And when we start talking buyout, oh my God, that's a divorce.
Right.
Yeah. I want the house. I want the kids. I want the cars. I want it becomes a thing that's polarizing. When you're just doing an exercise on the board, none of that stuff's there.
Right.
You're just talking about, okay, if your wife died, you're going to end up in a bottle and I'm going to have to run the whole firm. Okay. Well, like, I get that. That'd be fair. I'd end up in a bottle. So that's cool. So but the firm still has to go on. We got all these livelihoods that are attached to this. So we can, like, firm has to go on. And so when we built that, I wasn't thinking about myself. I really wasn't. I mean, he knew all that had happened, and he knew that I'd overreacted and all that other stuff, but that wasn't the impetus.
You could feel it. You could probably feel it for a while, right?
Oh yeah. 6 months.
Yeah.
That whole 2010 is really, because I'd had a second son. Ben also was born in November of 2009. And from that moment, and again, I was selling. I'm in sales and marketing and ops. So I'm doing stuff that's not even customer facing. But customers would reach out to me. And when they did, I'd be like, what? Ah! Okay, that's not good. That's not good for the business.
Even if you didn't say anything, they knew.
Yeah.
What's really great advice, Peter and I, we've been doing a few recordings today of the podcast, and we actually just had a guest on a bit ago, and we were talking about co-founder relationships, and I think we think about prenups,
right, when
you're getting married, right?
Yeah.
But
operating agreement,
you're in an operating agreement, all that stuff, right? And but as you're looking at, when you're going into these co-founder relationships, I know I've had a very similar experience, right? Where I, in a previous company, this was a couple businesses ago, we had actually done what seemed to me at the time to be a ridiculous thing. We had negotiated the exit. What happens if one of us leaves? When we were first starting the company. So when the day came, it was like, look, it says
there's no ego
right here. And you're doing it in a way where the bias is toward being fair to the other at that point.
Yeah,
right? When you're negotiating it up front, both sides 100%. Are sitting there saying, hey,
you already agreed on it.
Right. If this doesn't work, I want to be fair with you. I care about you. And then, before all that resentment and everything else hits, right? That's
ego, resentment, and again, this if we go back to the marriage analogy, we've like when someone gets divorced, like how many people do we know that it's been really truly amicable?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's usually, that we're friends until the other person starts dating or fucking someone else, and then we're not friends, and there's chaos and all this other shit. My oldest brother, John, he's the only person. He's like a fucking Jedi. I don't know how he's done it. He first marriage, my niece. He gets divorced, and a lot of it's his fault. And all that shit. He's just throwing dick. So he gets divorced. He's in a bottle for a couple of years, and he climbs out of the bottle, and he meets another woman, and they have 2 kids together. Right now, this is the Jedi shit. His first wife takes care of his second wife's kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're on text together.
Yeah.
They text each other and talk. And he talks to both of them. He has a wonderful relationship with both of them, all the way to the point of the first wife, on the weekends when the other wife isn't available, she'll take care of the kids. And she's got tons of money, so it's not none of that issue. But she loves taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
It's like, who the fuck does this? Who can pull this off?
It doesn't have to end in disaster, right? And
it doesn't. It really doesn't.
As founders, it doesn't. It doesn't need to end in the train wreck that it often does. Let me just kind of because I think it's sort of related, right? Think about your entrepreneurial career.
Yep.
Spans multiple businesses and things like that.
Right.
What are if you think about it, what are the biggest mistakes that you've made? You look back and you're like, oh, Jesus. Like, what, we were talking about buying wands as before. Like,
that was not a mistake. I'm just going on the record.
You think about what are the biggest mistakes you've made as a founder?
The Founders Journey podcast is brought to you by the Founders Collective, your ultimate support system on the entrepreneurial path. We're fellow founders, we're fellow entrepreneurs, and we understand the highs and lows of the journey. That's why the Founders Journey podcast is here, and that's why the Founders Collective is here, to offer world-class coaching at scale, connecting you with a vibrant global community. Together, we can supercharge your path to success. So visit our website today www.thefounderscollective.com, and embark on your journey with the Founders Collective, because entrepreneurship, nobody thrives alone. When you're there, be sure to sign up for the pre-launch for special exclusive pricing. They'll only be available over the next couple weeks. So get in there, sign up for the pre-launch today. Look forward to welcoming you as a member of the Founders Collective.
I think the biggest mistakes is hiring and making what I believe was a good decision, and not because of ego, not pulling the trigger fast enough.
Yep.
In terms of letting that person go. And I've had it probably 3 times in my life where I've hired someone going, best hire ever, because I thought so. Even though some of like my employees said, yeah, this is a bad hire. I'm like, no, this is the best hire ever. Not even listening to my own people. This is the best hire ever. Only to find out fraud. This is a complete fraud. It's not just a little fraud, like a very dark, very bad fraud. Like, this isn't just a person that couldn't do the job. Like, they were stealing from us. It was a horrible.
Oh, you mean like literally?
Oh my
fraud.
God.
Like
literally.
That is a big mistake.
That is a.
So what?
And in all 3 cases, it's like that. It's like that bit. I sent you a rabbi, a priest, and a fireman. Like in all 3 of those hires, I had other people on my team say, "Yeah, well, I just, I don't get the same feel.
Right.
I don't get the same feel." And I'm like, no. I understand it's a little bit counterintuitive. They don't know the industry and they don't have the experience. Like, I'm justifying, like, this is a good hire because I think it's a good hire.
So what did you do? What do you do about that?
How
Like,
did you deal with that?
If you're going to advise a founder on that, right? Because this is always, I'll tell you, we ask this question all the time. And this is always the
happened.
Right.
An hour ago.
Right. It just happened. Right. But like, what do you tell a founder? How do you tell a founder to avoid that mistake? Because we've all made the exact same one.
Well, you're not going to avoid it. So that's like avoiding a speeding ticket, right? So, like, no matter how you drive, you're going to get a speeding ticket. It's just going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, William, so you're saying, like, after that, you're listening to people, but then you get comfortable again. Then you're racing down the highway, and
that's right.
It happens again.
Yeah, and I think so. First of all, for founders, don't try to avoid it. What you need to do is trust your instincts. And again, we live in a scientific world. But I believe the moment you know it in your heart, you know it in your gut, like, yeah, something's not right. And then your people will tell you. And especially if you have an open environment with your people, which you should have, kind of a trusting environment, they should be able to tell you whatever the hell's on their minds. If they tell you, hey, Jimmy, it's not working. Like, the clients don't like Jimmy.
Right.
Like, that we're having trouble working with Jimmy. Instead of justifying why you made the hire, listen to them and just go, okay, let me dig in. Tell me more about what's going on. Let's get some more people in the room. Or on the call. Let's kind of figure this out. Okay. Then let me figure out if this is fixable. And if it's not fixable, cut. Cut fast.
How do you get them to tell you? How do you get your people to?
Good question.
To actually tell you that, right? Because every like.
The first time someone tells you something, no matter how retarded, you action it. You action it. Like, if they say, "Hey, the walls are gray. You painted the office gray, which makes everyone fucking depressed." Mm-hmm. So, like, you made the color choice, William. This is a true story. William, you made the choice of the color, and it's gray, and everyone comes in happy, and then all of a sudden they want to fucking drink themselves to sleep. It's like, yeah, I can see that. Fair enough. You know what? What color should we go with? Like, just something not gray.
So
okay, cool.
So you're basically saying, like, if someone reaches out to you, because it takes a lot for someone to reach out to you.
The moment.
There's something, right? There's something way more than you know.
100%.
You can't just be like, oh, you don't like the color. You can't blow it off, right?
No. You action it. And the moment you action it, they go back and tell other people. It's like, yeah, I told William that the walls were gray, and all of a sudden, like, next week, they're blue or whatever the bit was.
Yeah.
Like, they changed the colors of the wall. Now that permeates the organization. You tell the leader or leaders something, they take it to heart, and then they action it. That's how you build the trust in order to kind of do that. Is just the first time. And again, it's stupid. It doesn't matter what the fucking thing is. Mm-hmm. People are like, we shouldn't have these cheap pens. We need expensive pens. Like, okay, those were 3-cent pens and you want $4 pens? Okay, sounds a bit much. But if that's the thing, I'm going to Office Depot.
Right.
I'm going to go get a box of fucking expensive pens and put them around the office and be like, all right, done. If that pens is the thing, then that's it. But really, it isn't about pens.
Right.
It's about carrying forth a message that says, as a leader, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to take your advice. Because I can't do it all myself. I mean, that's just arrogance. I can't do it all myself. I need people to tell me. And in hiring, especially when you've made with me, when you've made a bad hire, you need other people to go, yeah, that was fucked up.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Right. Because that's how people are willing to tell you, because you built this rapport with them.
That's right.
By listening to them, and they're like, I think you'll listen to me.
Yeah. People say this shit all the time.
What I say.
Yeah, and it drives me into a fucking wall. Oh, we have an open door policy. Open door policy doesn't mean anything if you don't fucking action their advice.
Right. Right.
You could have no door. You could have just an open office, and if you don't action their advice, and again, their advice can be pure lunacy. It doesn't matter. It's because you got to kind of fight through some of the lunacy to get the good stuff. When they come to you with innovation, and they say, I think we need to do this bit, and you're like, shit, I didn't even see that. All right, let's do that.
Right. And that is pure culture. William, right? Like,
yes.
I mean, that's it. I mean, that's what you're talking about, is actually having a culture of listening and actually like doing
action.
Right.
Yes. This is amazing.
Right.
You've got to action it.
And I think that's the part where, it's really easy. And I think we've all had I'm sure the three of us on this call have had this expression a million times, where like you make a bad hire or you make a bad decision, right? Maybe it's a hire, maybe it's something else. And then, you kind of start to unwind it. And then you start to hear, I don't know why I hired that guy to begin with. But it's like, it's too late.
Day one, this happened. Right. You're like, day one?
Right.
This is 6 months in.
It's too late because you haven't built that culture.
It gets even worse with me. I'm a terrible interviewer. Like, I'm horrible. Like, literally, somewhere there's a list. I'm near the bottom of the list of interviewers, like the Marquis de Sade, somewhere around there. I'm fucking horrible at interviewing people. Because I'm esoteric. So by the time it reaches me, I'm like, okay, if you're a Beatles album, like, what Beatles album would you be? Like shit like that. Like stupid shit that has nothing with the job, nothing with competency, nothing with the experience, because people have already interviewed.
Right.
They've already talked to a bunch of my people.
Yeah.
This is a great example of a horrible interview. So this woman is up for a project manager job at our company, and she's already interviewed with the entire team. Everyone has greenlit her. Everyone. No problem. She's awesome. So she comes in to interview with me, and we're in these, we have concrete floors and kind of like the Costco chairs that kind of roll. And she's sitting across from me, and she has a 4-inch binder of all of her projects that she's worked on. Right? Like, this is dope. So, but I don't give a fuck at all, because I'm going to ask her these esoteric questions that have just come to me at the moment. If you're a crayon, what kind of crayon would you be and why? I'm just trying to get a feel for how they think. Not that I even care about the answer. Like, what apostle would you be? Stuff like that. I don't give a shit. Just which one would you be and why? And so she pushes over the binder. She goes, William, I'd really like for you to look at my work. I'm like, absolutely. I flip a couple pages, not looking at it, not giving a shit, put it aside, ask an esoteric question. And so I kind of pushed the binder out into the middle of the table. Like, I'm not looking at this shit. My folks and people, they looked at this. I said, you're only greenlit. Like, I'm just going to ask you some esoteric questions. Dude, we go back. I'll speed up the story because we go through about 3 or 4 of these. She keeps pushing the binder back in front of me to look at her stuff. Because she wants me to validate that this is some cool shit, and I don't care. I just care about asking my esoteric questions, which, again, being a horrible interviewer, this is what I'm doing. So the last straw was she pushes the binder back over to me, but in the meantime, her chair had rolled out from behind her. Unbeknownst to her, she goes to sit down and face plants into the table, the conference room table, which is solid wood, by the way. Another mistake. Comes up, and it's like a Quentin Tarantino movie, man. Blood is fucking spraying everywhere.
My God.
and I for the first time in my life, I freeze. I didn't know what the fuck to do. I didn't know if I should go hug her, if I should run and get Kleenex, if I could get somebody else. Like, what should I do? I just took back the binder from the middle of the table. It started
looking like there was nothing happening.
Again, I have no empathy. It's my fault. I start looking at her. I'm like, yeah, this is actually some really cool shit. I'm glad you brought this binder. I have my head down. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on with your nose, man. But anyhow,
there's a lot of blood.
There's some tampons in the girls' bathroom. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm gonna look at this binder. So I'm looking at the binder. She comes out. She cleans up the blood. She's got like tampons sticking in her nose, and I'm like, I looked through your binder, and I'm so glad that you asked me to look through this, because I didn't even acknowledge that any of it happened. Like, I'm just acting like it didn't happen, like the blood on the walls and shit. I want to repaint that shit. Don't worry about it. So, I just like, this is fantastic. I'm so glad that you came in today. This work is amazing, and Charles will be in touch with you really soon. So then she leaves, a very ungraceful exit. She leaves. All my team comes in and goes, "What the fuck?" I'm like, I don't know.
I didn't do that.
All I know is she really wanted me to look at this fucking binder, and I didn't want to look at a binder. And then she fell, and they hit her nose. They're like, "What did you do?" I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't do anything." They're like, "You fucking asshole."
I just kept looking at the binder.
I started looking at her work.
Like, it didn't actually occur.
It was some really cool work, and they're like, well, dude, seriously. Like, this is the best
We're
project.
gonna lose this person.
We're gonna lose. We did. We lost her.
Wow. She's trauma. Like
Traumatized.
trauma. Like, I can't go in that room.
The conference room was right at the entrance. There was a reception hall and the conference room, and then you went into the bullpen. And so that was like the place. She would never been able to make it, and it was all my fault. So when you interview, do not take any of that advice at all. If someone wants you to, if anyone wants you to look at their fucking binder, just look at their binder. It's all right. It's not that big a deal.
Get hurt.
But it was a forced process.
Right.
Like, it was in my head. I had a process that I wanted to take people through because I wanted to understand how they thought.
Right.
I wanted to understand how their brain worked, and I could have probably gotten there in a different way. And I was trying to force this process, this false process, and it really impacted someone. She would have been a good project manager for us, and she probably even could have changed the business. And it's all because of my own arrogance that I didn't allow that to happen. Well, she had a horrible experience.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what interviewing can turn into, right? It's just that like these, we get sort of caught up in our own nonsense about this stuff, right? And I think that becomes a big issue. I don't even want to
become our own worst enemies in hiring.
And we're going to run up against it on time here, so we've got just to kind of get into these last few questions. But the question I was just about to ask was, what's the scariest day you've had as a founder?
This episode of the Founders Journey podcast is brought to you by Evergreen Mountain Equity Partners. Evergreen Mountain is a thesis-driven technology fund, so it's really focused on the future of work and the technology supporting the future of work. So at Evergreen, we're not just investing, but we're investing in tomorrow's leaders today. Now, if you're a founder, you know that the path to success, long-term success and business building isn't just about hard work. It's about smart support. Not only things like the Founders Journey podcast, but also the people that you surround yourself with. That's where Evergreen Mountain really shines. We take a science-backed approach to founder selection. We've built a proprietary strategic partner network that provides more than just capital. We offer a compass for your growth. Our founders, that's me and my partner, Ira Grossman, we've been doing this for a while. Together with our team, we've funded and we've scaled multiple tech companies to really successful exits. And now we want to help the next generation of founders do the same. So whether it's harnessing AI to transform the workforce or integrating new technologies that empower employees and streamline operations, we're backing those founders that are really leading the charge in the next generation of the future of work. It's about the commitment that we make, not just to our investments, but really focusing on the right investments where we can really make a difference for our portfolio companies. We focus on small market private equity deals, helping companies that are poised for long-term success without really chasing unicorns. So if you're building a company that aligns with the future of work and you're looking for a partner who really understands the complexities about what you're doing and can support the growth with real-world expertise and deep market insight, I think Evergreen Mountain Equity Partners could be a perfect fit for your venture. Check us out today, emep.io, to learn more about our investment philosophy and how we might be able to help you scale your vision. So Evergreen Mountain Equity Partners is really where today's founders really shape tomorrow's future.
Although you did have a woman bleeding profusely in front of you in your conference room. So
I don't think
That was
I
nothing.
don't think that made him scared.
no, I know. But what, I mean, seriously, like you look back on your career.
So,
What's the scariest day you've had?
I don't believe that you're an actual founder until one of two things, maybe both, if you're really lucky, happens. One is you get sued. So if you've never been sued as a founder,
Yeah.
then you're not a founder. So there's got to be a lawsuit, or at least a threat of a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing. The second is, threats is fine. I had a cease and desist from Mark Benioff at Salesforce.com. From him. Not
Lovely.
from Mark Benioff. This is
It
back
means you're
in
doing good work.
like '03, and we had built for the company called SalesNet. We had built, because the logo at the time was no software.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. That was the Salesforce deal. We put no Salesforce. So it was the same round circle with a
Jeez.
line through it.
Yeah.
But it was
Oh, lovely.
Salesforce's brand name.
Yeah.
And we're like,
That would piss him off.
yeah, surely this can't go wrong. And so he sends me a letter. Somebody finds out my name, sends me a fucking letter and goes, hey, first of all, very creative. Secondly, never use our logo again in your lifetime. I'm like, absolutely, 100%. I emailed him back.
We're good.
Because he gave me his email. He gave me it was a Salesforce letterhead back in
Yeah.
the day, and it had him and it has his email. So I emailed him. I said, "Hey, got your letter, done. Already discontinued the campaign. Don't have to worry about it. Thank you for saying it was clever, because we thought it was clever.
Yeah.
Won't use your brand. Won't use your likeness. Don't have to worry about those things. But you got to get threatened. You got to. There's got to be something that threatens you. The second is about extending the business past your means, getting over your skis, if you will. You've got to, at one point, put payroll on a Visa or American Express.
Yep.
Like, you've got to go so far to go, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. How much do we owe?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Shit. Okay, I know I have a platinum card, but what does it go up to?
Yeah.
You got to do
How many
that.
months do I have left on my platinum
Exactly.
payroll?
I remember the first time I got a platinum card, they're like, you can buy a Porsche with this. I'm like, I can, but should I?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's that one phone call you have to make to American Express when they say, "Oh yeah, there's no credit limit." I know you say
What?
there's no credit limit.
But what is it?
I have a feeling what I'm about to do.
May test that theory.
Right, we're
And
gonna
I still
find-
know, because it's people.
Payroll's $250,000. Will it light?
So, but those things look. But it's really real, right? I don't think
It's-
Yeah.
and-
Sweat and payroll is the worst.
Right, and
man.
William,
You got to be terrified. That's the thing.
Oh, it's so horrible.
You have to be terrified in your core. Like, you have a good idea for a startup if you can't sleep.
right?
Yeah.
You also know you have a good startup if you've been threatened or you've extended yourself so far that it scares the shit out of you.
Yeah, that you could be effed.
That you
Legit effed.
you could be. This could be
Your-
bankruptcy.
Your skis are off and you're in the air right now. And you're hoping there's a way they can land where your feet are going to be.
Did I put on skis?
Why am I in the air right now? Like full send. Full
Yeah.
send.
I have been sued, I think, or the threat
Threatened.
of sued. No, I shouldn't
Right.
say
Yeah,
I've
right,
been
right.
sued. I've had the threat of a lawsuit
Yeah. Which
from a
is,
competitor in every single business I've started, without fail.
now, on some level, that's when you know that you're doing things right.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're touching
They only
some
care
nerves.
if they're scared. Like if
That's
they're
right.
like, whoa,
And they say they got a lawyer involved.
this can F with us. Like,
Yeah. It's like, wait a
you can
minute.
take
hold
us
on.
out.
It's similar in marketing. I know y'all know this. But in marketing, if you don't get an angry email, like a screamer or someone saying that you should go to hell or something like that, you haven't pushed hard enough.
Right.
Yeah. Stop sending this garbage to me,
That's,
please.
you're just sending bullshit out that's middle of the road, gray. No one's going to be offended. No, someone should be offended. Like I talked to my son last night. We were coming home from a ceremony, and he goes, I don't want to wear that because it might offend someone. I'm like, here's the deal, dude. You need to wake the fuck up.
This is a
And
kid
you're
with
gonna-
your DNA.
Yeah, no, but he's super conservative. It's
Wow,
crazy.
funny.
I like it. I like it because it's so different than me. But he's like, I just don't want to offend anybody. I'm like, dude, you can't live life not or worrying about offending people.
Every single person. Yeah.
You're going to offend somebody. And in fact, if you don't offend somebody, I'll go that far. If someone's not pissed at you, you just haven't done enough. You haven't pushed it far enough.
I'll tell you a funny story. Pete, and you guys both lived this experience with me, right? Like William was the cause and Peter was the engine. This is the story, right? So William
Barbie?
No. So early days in previous company at Checked before it became Outmatch. William, we talked about this doing the brainstorming thing, and then we were doing email marketing, and we're sending out emails, and William was like, "You need to be sending out these marketing emails every day of the week," and we're like, "Dude, nobody's doing. You can't do that. Like, we're gonna get thrown off. We're gonna get thrown out. Like, you can't. That's not a thing." He's like, and we're like, we'll do it one day a week. He's like, every day.
Yeah.
So we went to
day.
like 1 day a week, right? And I say Peter was the engine because Peter's marketing agency, Render Tribe, was the one actually doing the stuff.
That's right.
Peter's agency starts to set. We build this completely like list of 250,000 people. Nobody opted in. Nobody did anything.
got
It was
huge.
like total,
that's
total ridiculous, right? So we're
laws,
hammering this
whatever.
list every day or every once a week, and William's like,
No, more than that.
I
You
said
got to.
every day. So we said, all right,
yeah.
we'll try like 2 days a week. All right, do it. So we start doing this. This goes on and goes on and goes on. We finally hit 5 days a week. We're literally sending millions of emails out to this list every week.
Millions.
And the funniest day ever. So like we're getting complaints and every time this is happening, William's like, "This is awesome. Like all these people are complaining. They're all
This
pissed off." I
VP
was
of
like,
HR was like, you have to stop sending this garbage.
right. So and all
Okay.
all of the emails said the from was Greg at Checked, right?
Yes.
So
Yes,
I'm literally
yes.
when we knew we had something, I'm literally walking and Peter, like I called you immediately when this happened. I'm walking through an airport. I'm like sitting on a plane. I sit next to a person and they're like, "What do you do?" And I said, check.com. She's like, "I get your emails every fucking day." I get an email and she's like, "Who?" And she introduced her, Sally. I was like, "Oh, I'm Greg." She's like, "You're Greg at Checked?" I said, "Yeah." She's like, "I didn't think there was a real human behind this."
Even better.
Yes. Yes.
I live in Saratoga. A lot of people in my neighborhood rent their house for track.
Right.
The CEO of Fridays comes next door and he's like asking me what I do. He's a super nice guy with his buddies from high school and they're hanging out going to the track. And he goes, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "What companies you work with?" And tell me a few. And I was like telling him, and he's just super fascinated as an entrepreneur. And I said, "Well, you ever heard of Outmatch?" It was Outmatch then. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I get your emails." And I just start laughing. I'm like, "You get our emails?" He's like, "Yeah." "Well, we're the ones that send them." And he's just like, "I get all of them." It was hilarious. Small world.
But the moral though, and what I forgot to mention up front is William is actually an operating partner at Evergreen Mountain, our venture fund. And one of the things we talk about all the time is like, stop being so afraid. Like, telling founders like, stop being afraid. Like, if you're not, because I know we're saying it in a joking way, but if you're not pushing it to that point, you're not pushing hard.
You're just
enough,
in the
right?
noise. You're a part of. You go to HR Tech and everybody's marketing very much the same way, and people will tell you they want to be different. And every time someone tells me that, because you know how to be different, and they're like, "No, actually we don't," because the market is this. I said, "Well, you actually have to be different."
Right.
So that's how you're different. And so the way to know as a founder, the way to know a good marketing idea is the little hairs on the back of your neck should fucking stand up.
Right.
When someone says, hey, we want to take down a trade show booth and we want to bring in elephants and snakes. Like,
Real ones?
what? Yeah, we want to build a snake pit and just have the elephants around and maybe occasionally throw some humans in there. That's it. That's the bit. That should scare the shit out of you. You're onto something.
Right.
If your CMO or your VP of marketing comes in and they lob an idea at you and you're like you're like yeah that's safe, that's good, you're not gonna get anything out of
Right.
it.
Because it's all noise, right? It's all noise.
sorry,
And that's
you're
the
just adding
biggest
to the noise.
competition you have.
Back in the day, is like 700 people showing up for a webinar. That's what we
Right.
got at the end.
Right.
700 people.
So I give the founders a hack on that one that I learned actually by mistake. I was working with HR Smart and I was helping them with an editorial program, and I'm talking just to their digital marketer. I said, okay, take me through what you do. And so it brings up the calendar. He's like, okay, once a week we do this, blah, blah, blah. And it was like a Tuesday. And it just says demo. And I said, okay, I see this thing like every month on Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, there's demo. He's like, oh yeah, I do this bit. I just send out an email to the entire house list and it just says, do the demo. And it's just a link to the demo. Like it's just a link to a calendar.
Yep.
And just do the demo. And he said, it works every time.
Yeah.
If you just ask the people
Yeah.
to do a demo, maybe even give them some context of what's new or whatever, but just do the demo and get out of that.
Right.
Here's the thought
I have to
leadership.
convince them, yeah.
Yeah. No, just ask them to do the demo, and some of them will say, okay, seems reasonable, click,
Right.
and they'll do the demo.
Just push harder. Right. And I
Push
think
harder.
that's it. And that's where that fear comes in, right? It's when you start to get caught up in, well, we can do this, we can't do this, nobody's doing this, we
No
shouldn't
rules.
do this. Just stop, right? Stop with the rules. And that's where when you joke about like the getting sued part, it almost becomes this kind of, now again, hopefully it's not like a successful lawsuit
Yeah.
where you've really stolen somebody's IP, right? But
Right.
getting that first cease and desist order is like the badge
Oh,
of
yeah.
honor, right? To say like,
Oh, I have it framed.
right.
I literally took it to a frame shop and had it framed, and I'm like, you know what? I also had, now this is crazy. So we sent out direct mail for a client, and some like Ted Kaczynski type person like wrote in the columns of all the direct mail on both sides, and then the client sends it, or I pick it up, they give it to me, and they're like, what do we do with this? I'm like, I'm gonna frame this bitch. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. And I put it in our lobby on two glass so that people can see both sides, and I just hung it from the lobby. So like when people would walk in, they'd see this Ted Kaczynski fucking letter back to us about all the things that were wrong about our direct mail piece. And I'm like,
That's
if
awesome.
if you've gotten someone to that point, you struck a nerve. You're good. It's the whole idea is to be memorable. Like you got to be memorable.
100%.
And if you're not memorable, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you marketing? Why are you even wasting time? Why are you wasting everybody's time?
So 2 questions to wrap us up. We got to do this like a minute each, right?
Got it.
3 best learning resources that you found. What do you point people to? If founders looking to kind of get, whether it's on these topics like we're talking about today with marketing or just in your entrepreneurial career, what are the 3 resources that become valuable for you?
Other founders. Other founders are both your sense of inspiration and also a place where you can be honest.
Yep.
Especially people that aren't in your industry. Even in your industry, I think it could work there. But if you just be around other founders going through, the same what they're going through and listening to their stories and listening to your stories, I think you can gain a lot because they're the only ones that are going to know what you're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think podcasts and resources like this are good because they can hear stories, and if they hear this, like this particular episode, they might get one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That's okay. That's the job. That's okay. So I think from their peer group, I think from podcasts where they can listen and hear other people's stories, and I don't really believe in business books. So I'm not one of these, you should read Brene Brown or who the fuck. I don't care. I think reading the classics are more important than reading any business books. So I think inspiration should come from, it should come from, like for me, Catcher in the Rye or anything Hemingway read. wrote. Like those are where you're going to find inspiration. It isn't in some fucking thing of the day, fad of the day. You should do this bullshit that's just regurgitated. Go back to the source.
Yeah.
Go back to Greek. Go back to Greek and Roman writings. Read the classics. Literally reread the classics, and you'll find something in a classic that's actually true of you today.
Yep.
Of how you should treat your customers, how you should treat yourself, how you should interact with people, how you should think, how you should get disconnect from the business. Like, it's all there. Emerson's written about it. Like, okay, so like you don't have to go and read some new shit, which is just regurgitated bullshit anyhow. Go read the classics.
Yep.
Go read the classics. And if you really care this is going to be a long tail. Read the Bible, the Holy Quran, and the Torah.
Interesting.
Read all three, and read them cover to cover. And whether or not you're religious or spiritual, or you're a part of a faith, or you just don't believe, agnostic or atheist, etc., they're phenomenal in the context of all three of them. Say about 80%, maybe more, close 90% of the same thing.
Yep.
Treat people well.
Yeah.
Be nice. Like, it's some basic stuff that the tenets kind of come down to. Have compassion, care.
Yeah.
All these things. So those three books, all very important books to those faves, but they all are very similar. And if you just read one, you're not getting the context of the other two.
Yep.
And so it's really easy to get polarizing. So I think reading the classics, and in those three books, it's a journey. I've read all three. And in the Holy Quran and the Torah, I read them in English, of course. But it's a phenomenal expedition of just kind of seeing about humanity and what the tenets of humanity really, really are. And if you read those three books, you're going to find that it's not that hard. Like, we make it really complicated. Comes down to like 10 things. You're good.
Love it, man. Last thing, 30 seconds.
Sure.
Biggest influence on your career?
Biggest influence of my career was my time spent with Sam Walton. So I had the privilege of working with Sam for about 2 years of my life in Bentonville. And I had a little cubicle outside of his office. And, like, we'd go to lunch together, and he'd take me places. And just like, I was probably 18, maybe 19 at the time. And so, like, I got to spend time with him. He was more of a figurehead, not the CEO. David Glass was the CEO, but he still had an immense amount of power, of course. And so we just go visit stores and do shit together. And, like, he was like an uncle I never had. And
wow,
crazy smart. But he's in the South. They call it country savvy. Like, you can't see him coming.
Right.
Like, they're like, oh, now, I don't understand. Now tell me a little bit more about this. This looks fantastic. Like, Sam would do that shit inside of a Kmart. Like, we'd go up to an end cap, and he'd have the store manager. He's like, oh, now tell me about this. This looks like this is great merchandise right here. This is fantastic. What you've done here. This is great. How's it going? How's it pulling? How's it selling? What kind of markup are we dealing with? Like, he's asking business questions inside of the context of, like, you're doing an amazing job. And you couldn't see this guy coming.
Yeah.
And I've been around a couple of other guys that are like that. They're so wicked smart, and they play it down. Like, when I first met him, I said, Mr. Walton? He goes, huh? My first name's Jeffrey, so my name badge is on. He goes, Jeffrey, my name's Sam. You need to call me Sam. I'm going to call you Jeffrey, you call me Sam. I'm like, dude, all right. Fucking millionaire. I'm like, all right, yep. So I did. And it was funny, when I met Ed Bass, everyone in the room in Fort Worth, we were in a bit, and he comes in, and everybody's, it's like ceremonial shit. And he gets around, and I introduce myself. I say, Ed, my name's William. He goes, Ed? I said, yeah, your name's Ed, right? Or do you like Edward? He goes, yeah, but usually people don't call me by my first name. I'm like, yeah, I work for Sam Walton. You're Sam Walton. So I'm going to call you Ed. And you can call me goodbye if you like. I don't give a fuck. But I'm going to call you Ed. And he laughed his ass off. Like, he literally laughed his ass off. He was just like, I like you. you need to sit down because all these other people, they don't do that shit to me. I'm like, all right, cool.
You wrote a great. I'll link in our show notes. I'll link a piece. You had a great LinkedIn post a couple weeks ago about this story of meeting Sam Walton, and it was a pretty incredible story that you wrote.
That's when he pulled me to Bentonville.
Yeah.
What I didn't say in the rest of that story is after that whole bit is he just said you're too good for the stores. You need to come to Bentonville. I'm like, what the fuck's in Bentonville? That's how clueless I was. What the fuck is Bentonville? He's like, it's the headquarters, William. No, I'm like, no, I know that. No, I know where the checks come from. He goes, no, but you need to be there because you actually think so differently than these other people I work with. You just need to come and work for me. I'm like, okay.
Unbelievable.
He just tells my store manager, like at the end of his visit, he's like, hey, Jeffrey's going to come with me now.
You don't have him anymore.
What the fuck is he going to say? Store manager's like, absolutely, 100%.
See you, William. Nice to meet you. Good luck.
So he pulls me to Bentonville right after that. Crazy as shit. Help me get an apartment. Like crazy shit. Like I had like a Volkswagen Fox. I'm driving to Bentonville. I don't have anything. I mean, I don't have stuff in my car. And like I get there and I show up at the office and the old Walmart headquarters was a Walmart back in the 80s.
Yeah.
They had just taken an old Walmart and repurposed it as an office space. They had built a corporate headquarters. Sam didn't believe in that shit.
Yeah.
So like I pulled up to the Walmart corporate headquarters and I walk in. I'm like, hey, my name's Jeffrey. And Sam told me to come. Like, I'm sure I sounded like a crazy person. And they're like, okay, well, Sam does that from time to time. Let me go get him. They go back. It's Sam. Sam came up. Oh, great. You showed up. All right, here's the deal. I got a little place over here for you. And then, do you have an apartment? I'm like, no, I just drove in. He goes, okay, I know a guy. We'll get a guy on it. We'll get you an apartment. Like, he took care of everything.
That's incredible. Great place to end it, William. This was super hilarious and super fun. Best way to reach you if somebody wants to connect with you, if they want to learn more about what you're doing with Work to Find.
Yeah, Google.
Just like work is it words. Could you be a little bit more specific than?
Dude, you just know, seriously. I use it as kind of either an IQ test or a litmus test, however you feel. Is if you can't find me on the internet, I probably shouldn't know you.
So,
just put my name into Google and there'll be like 18 O's that'll tell you how to get in touch with me.
William Tincup on LinkedIn and over in and if somebody
everywhere.
Is it workdefined.com?
It is worked at WRK defined. We took out the O for all the reasons we've talked about. And so that's a podcast network. But really just William at tincup.com. I own the domain. My last name's domain.
Got it.
So yeah, you can get me there, but literally I'm super easy. I make it super easy for people to find on any of the platforms.
We'll link to them all in the show notes. William, this was awesome having you on. Been looking forward to doing this, and appreciate everybody joining us on the Founder's Journey. If you'll take a moment, leave us a review, preferably a nice one. Comment, share it. If you're a founder who's no other founders and they're looking for information like this, please get it out there. So see you next time on the Founder's Journey podcast.